A search dog persistently circled a location within the forest, disregarding commands. "Control your animal," the sergeant ordered. When they finally excavated at the spot she indicated, the discovery beneath the soil stunned the entire search team. Before we delve into today's narrative, please share in the comments where you're watching from. And if you appreciate remarkable police dogs and stories like this one, be sure to subscribe. Prepare for what's about to unfold. The early morning fog lay over Rockwell National Forest, resembling a ghostly veil, changing the tall pines into shadowy sentinels. Officer Lydia Mercer adjusted her jacket against the autumn chill as she looked over the training area, her breath appearing as small clouds in the cool air. Next to her, Aspen, her 5-year-old German Shepherd, remained watchful. Dark ears stood erect in anticipation, intelligent eyes examining the tree line. "The weather is ideal for scent work today," observed Sergeant Dominic Carter, as he came forward with a clipboard. "The humidity is keeping the odors close to the ground, which should make today's exercise straightforward for Aspen." Lydia nodded, making adjustments to the specialized search vest on Aspen's muscular frame. "She's been restless all morning. I believe she understands that this is not just another training day." Nearby, for additional canine teams readied themselves for the exercise, handlers inspecting gear as their dogs exhibited different levels of composure. The sound of autumn leaves crackling resonated with each step as Sergeant Carter assembled the group for a concluding briefing. "We've positioned 6 training aids within this quadrant," he stated, spreading a topographical map across the hood of his department SUV. These aids consist of standard human remains scent pads, buried at varying depths and exposed to diverse environmental conditions. The focus was on precision, not haste. Lydia maintained a measured distance, clipboard ready, observing Aspen execute her established search pattern. The shepherd proceeded with deliberate skill, moving in a quartering pattern against the wind, her nose constantly analyzing the air for the slightest indication of the scent of human remains. After 30 minutes of the training, Aspen had already found 2 of the training aids, correctly indicating each discovery while Lydia recorded the positions. The forest's difficulty increased as they progressed, with thick undergrowth and fallen trees forming natural barriers. Abruptly, Aspen's consistent behavior shifted. The dog's head rose quickly, her nose working intensely as she analyzed the scents. Unexpectedly, she turned sharply to the left, deviating from their designated search zone. "Aspen, this way," Lydia called, employing the hand signal to guide her partner. For the first time in their 3 years together, Aspen disregarded the command entirely. The shepherd proceeded with growing urgency, pushing through a dense thicket of brambles toward an area that wasn't part of the training ground. Her body language had changed, tail straight, muscles tense, ears rigidly forward. "Aspen," Lydia called more sharply, a flutter of concern replacing her initial irritation. This wasn't like her partner at all. Far away, Sergeant Carter's gaze met hers, his face changing from interest to concern as Aspen strayed from the planned route. Lydia activated her radio. "Sergeant, Aspen is signaling something outside our designated zone. I'm proceeding to check it out." The quick reply came, "Negative, Mercer. Return your dog and stick to the designated path. We need to adhere to our timetable." Lydia paused, observing as Aspen entered an open space approximately 70 yards past their assigned boundaries. The dog started circling a particular spot close to a group of fallen trees, her actions growing more frantic. Then Aspen did something she had been specifically trained not to do. She began to dig, her front paws striking the ground with desperate intensity. "Something's wrong," Lydia murmured, starting to run toward her partner. By the time she arrived at the clearing, Aspen was whining, a high-pitched sound of distress as she circled and returned to dig at the same spot. Sergeant Carter arrived shortly thereafter, his expression showing displeasure. "Officer Mercer, this is not acceptable. Control your—" His sentence was cut off as he observed Aspen's actions more carefully. 20 years of experience with dogs told him this wasn't disobedience or inattention. "That's not a training reaction," he said softly, his eyes focusing on the area where Aspen continued to circle and dig. "That's a genuine alert." "Get me a shovel," Lydia said to a nearby trainee, keeping her gaze fixed on Aspen, who continued circling and pawing at the ground with increasing urgency. The dog's actions had changed from excited to nearly frantic, her whines growing more insistent. The trainee brought 2 shovels, and Lydia started carefully removing layers of soil and forest debris where Aspen pointed. At a depth of 6 inches, she observed the initial inconsistency, roots that had been neatly severed instead of naturally winding around obstructions. The soil composition also differed, exhibiting less density compared to the adjacent ground. "Someone has excavated here previously," she stated softly, making eye contact with Carter, whose doubt was diminishing quickly. They persisted in digging, establishing a broader area around Aspen's designated location. The atmosphere felt denser with every layer of soil unearthed. The sounds of the forest appeared to diminish as their attention centered on the work. 12 inches down, Lydia's shovel hit something that wasn't stone or root. The muted impact sent a shiver up her spine. "Wait," she said, her voice a near whisper. She paused instantly, dropping to her knees next to the small excavation. Using gloved hands, she began carefully clearing away the remaining earth, applying the meticulous technique she'd acquired in evidence recovery training. A hush fell over the officers present. The only sound was Aspen's rhythmic breathing as she stood motionless at the grave's edge, her posture rigid with conviction. One trainee officer averted his gaze, unable to witness the ongoing excavation. "Oh God," Lydia murmured, her gloved fingers brushing against what were undeniably human fingers, partially decomposed but distinctly identifiable. The pallid complexion stood out sharply against the dark soil, the truth of their find undeniable. A look of shock drained the color from Carter's face. His previous doubts vanished. He recoiled, retrieving his radio with a hand that shook subtly despite his extensive background. "This is Sergeant Carter at the Northeast Training Grounds," he stated, his voice maintaining professionalism but strained. "We have a 10 to 29 possible human remains. I require the on-call detective, forensics, and county coroner to my GPS location without delay. Coordinates to follow." Aspen stayed near the graveside, her stance watchful but now more relaxed, as though content that her message had been received. Lydia put a comforting hand on the shepherd's shoulder, a wordless recognition of her dedication. Shortly after, the tranquil forest clearing transformed into a center of organized action. Yellow crime scene tape defined a broad boundary around the discovery location, and officers commenced recording the scene through photographs and written observations. Detective Marcus Whitley arrived 30 minutes later, his department SUV traveling along the narrow Forest Service road to reach the scene. The tall, broad-shouldered detective, having worked with canine teams previously, immediately adhered to the perimeter protocols as he approached. "What do we have?" he asked, putting on latex gloves. "Human remains, Detective," Carter reported, noting they were initially discovered by Officer Mercer's cadaver dog during training. A single hand was observed, approximately 14 inches beneath the surface. The forensic team responded quickly, deploying portable lighting despite the midday hour. The thick forest canopy resulted in a dim, twilight-like atmosphere on the forest floor. During the continued, careful excavation, the situation's severity became apparent. The remains of a young male, believed to be in his teens, were discovered in a shallow grave obscured by forest debris, apparently in an attempt to hide it. Based on decomposition, an estimated 3 to 4 months had passed, the county medical examiner observed, meticulously examining the visible remains without disrupting the crime scene. No apparent cause of death was immediately evident. Detective Whitley surveyed the area with focused precision, his experienced eyes registering every detail as the forensic team continued their careful excavation. "Officer Mercer," he said, gesturing Lydia closer to the gravesite, "tell me about your dog's initial alert. Was there something peculiar about the scene?" Lydia nodded, holding Aspen's leash tightly. She disregarded procedure entirely, an action she had never taken in her 3 years of work and training, disobeyed instructions, left the designated search area, and led us directly here. Her alert was pronounced. Frantic digging, circling, vocalizations, the typical signs of a cadaver location, but with an unusual degree of urgency. Aspen had stayed focused, her gaze moving between the grave and a spot several yards to the east. Lydia observed Aspen's body language, understanding there was additional evidence to uncover. While trained in human remains detection, she was also known to be discerning, Lydia clarified. She possesses the ability to differentiate between the primary source and any secondary evidence connected to it. Whitley acknowledged this with a nod. "Show me," Lydia requested. She adjusted her hold on Aspen's lead. "Find more, Aspen. Show me." Releasing Aspen from the sit-stay command, the dog instantly moved toward the eastern boundary of the clearing, nose close to the ground. She halted suddenly, pointing to a particular place under a fallen log with the identical focused sitting position she employed in training. Forensic technicians meticulously examined the area, discovering a cigarette butt lodged between the log and the forest floor. 6 feet beyond, Aspen alerted once more, leading them to a blood-stained handkerchief partly concealed under leaves. "Collect those separately and label them as possible DNA sources," Whitley directed. A burgeoning respect shone in his eyes as he observed Aspen work. "That dog is worth her weight in gold." As the afternoon progressed, the victim was fully excavated, revealing the body of a teenage boy. No obvious wounds were visible through his clothing, but the unnatural position suggested trauma prior to death. While the search teams organized their grid pattern, Lydia took a moment to give Aspen a water break in a quiet spot away from the center of activity. Lydia observed her partner and couldn't help but consider the remarkable path that had united them 3 years earlier. The shepherd had originally been involved in a military working dog program, trained by former Marine Master Sergeant Reed Calloway, who had served with the Corps Elite Forensic Investigation Unit. Calloway had become known for developing dogs with exceptional scent discrimination abilities, driven by a personal tragedy. "He's too independent," Calloway had told Lydia, introducing her to the intense-eyed shepherd who sat watching them with unnerving focus. "Follows her nose instead of commands when she believes she's right. Military handlers want predictability above all else." Lydia had seen something different. Not defiance, but extraordinary conviction. Where others saw a problematic canine, she recognized a dog with rare gifts that simply needed the right partner. A deep and instant bond formed, with Aspen reacting to Lydia's careful approach in ways that surprised even Calloway. "She requires someone who will trust her when she deviates from established procedures, for valid reasons," he observed, watching their initial collaboration. "She is invariably correct when she departs from the planned course. She's simply interpreting scent information beyond human perception." The specialized training Calloway had created incorporated methods seldom employed in typical police canine programs, instructing dogs to identify minute quantities of human decomposition, amounts nearly impossible for instruments to register, to differentiate between various human odors at a location, and to operate autonomously while tracking intricate scent pathways. At the command post, situated on the Forest Service Road, Detective Whitley had created a temporary investigative hub within his SUV. The laptop screen showed a database of missing persons reports while he compared information from the crime scene. Male. Caucasian. Around 16 to 18 years old. Athletic build, he said, adjusting the search filters. The search included records from the last 4 months within a 100-mile radius. Lydia came over after arranging for Aspen to work with the search team coordinator. "Any matches?" Whitley responded somberly, angling the screen so she could see. "3 possibilities, but this one looks most likely. Ryan Hollister, age 17, has been missing for 4 months. He was last seen hiking in Crestwood Park, approximately 20 miles southeast of here. The image shown was of a smiling teenager with sandy brown hair and a scattering of freckles on his nose. He was wearing a Letterman jacket from Westlake High School, matching the bright blue color of the worn backpack discovered with the remains. Crestwood is 20 miles from here," Lydia noted. "How could he have been located in Rockwell Forest?" "That's the question," Whitley affirmed, scrolling through the original missing persons report. The report indicated that Ryan was an experienced hiker, Eagle Scout, and member of his school's cross-country team. He was not the kind of person to become lost or stray that far from the trail. A forensic technician approached, presenting a sealed evidence bag containing the recovered backpack. "Detective, we discovered a student ID in the side pocket, partially degraded but still readable." Whitley scrutinized the plastic identification card visible within the clear evidence bag, then glanced at his screen. Ryan Hollister, Westlake High. It was him. He promptly reached for his phone. "I need to contact the family," he stated. "They've been waiting for answers for 4 months." The initial investigation had been entirely centered on Crestwood Park, based on the assumption that Ryan had experienced an accident or became lost. The possibility of foul play hadn't been considered, and no one had envisioned searching in a separate forest several miles away. "This wasn't a hiking accident," Lydia stated softly, glancing towards the crime scene. "Someone deliberately buried him here, far from where anyone would expect to look." As daylight diminished, portable lights shone on the forest clearing as the broadened search effort continued. 3 more K, 9 teams joined to help, each with unique skills. To ensure accuracy, tracking and evidence detection protocols were implemented, with a second HRD dog deployed to validate Aspen's findings. Lydia and Aspen spearheaded a team moving north from the grave site. The shepherd demonstrated renewed vigor despite the considerable hours already invested. Aspen's speed increased, her tail position signaling heightened anticipation, as they traversed a thick stand of pine trees. The ground declined gradually towards a small, naturally occurring clearing approximately half a mile from the burial site. Signs of recent camping were evident. Officer Ramirez, one of the evidence technicians, was observed shining his flashlight on a fire ring constructed from rocks. Around it, partially buried in leaves and dirt, were discarded beer cans, food wrappers, and the remains of a temporary campsite. The shepherd noted several beer cans near the fire ring, indicating significant evidence. As technicians documented the items with photographs and secured them in bags, Aspen proceeded to the clearing's perimeter, observing faint tire tracks in a muddy area shielded from exposure by overhanging branches. "What have we got?" Whitley inquired upon his arrival. "Campsite recently used but deliberately obscured," Ramirez reported. "Discarded beer cans, a fire pit, signs of several people, and these tire tracks indicate they drove in via the old logging road instead of hiking from the trails." Aspen continued, examining the clearing's boundary, then abruptly signaled intensely near a pile of rocks on the eastern edge. With careful attention, the evidence technicians removed the rocks individually, revealing a cell phone. The screen was shattered, but the device remained otherwise undamaged. The item was intentionally concealed under the rock pile, contained within a plastic bag that shielded it from moisture. The forest investigation persisted throughout the night and extended into the following morning, with teams operating in shifts to manage the expanding crime scene. Initial DNA analysis confirmed the blood on the handkerchief corresponded to Ryan Hollister's blood type, and the tech team had retrieved text messages, photos, and location data from the period leading up to his disappearance. The photographs depicted 4 teenagers at the campsite they found yesterday. Ryan Hollister was easily recognizable, smiling with 3 other boys. They were consuming beer near the campfire, appearing relaxed and lively. This directly conflicts with the accounts his friends provided to the police. Whitley stated, "They asserted they had called off the trip and Ryan went alone. These photos demonstrate that all 4 of them were present together." The medical examiner finished the initial examination, establishing the cause of death as blunt force trauma to the back of the skull, a single forceful impact from a rounded object. A fractured cheekbone was also present, indicating a physical confrontation prior to the fatal injury. While arrangements proceeded for the afternoon's interrogations, an unforeseen development emerged. Park Ranger Caleb Sullivan. The veteran ranger, having heard the discovery over the radio, instantly identified the location based on the provided coordinates. "Approximately 4 months ago, around early June, I came across a group of young men camping without authorization in that precise clearing," Sullivan recounted. "There were 4 teenagers, all male. They possessed a lifted Jeep Wrangler, painted bright red and equipped with oversized tires." He continued, "I addressed them regarding the unlawful camping and vehicle use on a closed road. Did you observe anything out of the ordinary in their behavior?" Whitley insisted. The ranger paused, appearing to consider the situation. "They seemed anxious, which I attributed to being caught in violation of the regulations. A particular detail was noticeable. They possessed a significant amount of camping equipment, but it appeared largely unused. Tents remained packed, sleeping bags were rolled, yet their fire had been active for some time, and numerous empty beer cans were present. They were preparing to depart quickly, Lydia proposed. Precisely, Sullivan affirmed. I believed they were simply startled by the apprehension of being discovered. He hesitated, the unspoken thought hanging in the air. Whitley displayed yearbook photos of Ryan's 3 friends on his laptop. Do any of these look familiar? Sullivan examined the images, quickly pointing to Tyler Westfield. He was present. He was quite assertive until the largest boy intervened. He then pointed to Ethan Drake's photo. That appears to be the bigger one. The unanticipated testimony notably bolstered the case. Sullivan's interaction probably transpired soon after Ryan's death, potentially as the other teenagers were getting ready to leave the area. The interview space at the county sheriff's department was intentionally plain. It contained a basic table, 4 chairs, and a one-way observation mirror displaying the anxious expression of Jason Morrow. At 17, he appeared younger than his age, his shoulders slumping protectively as he sat next to his mother and their quickly hired lawyer. Jason, Detective Whitley began, I'm investigating the death of Ryan Hollister, whose body was found yesterday in Rockwell National Forest. The teenager's eyes widened a little, but he kept a fairly calm demeanor. That's awful, he stated, his voice even. Ryan was my friend. We were all heartbroken when he went missing. Whitley responded, opening his folder, I recall your statement from 4 months ago. You informed Detective Garcia that the 4 of you had arranged a hiking trip to Crestwood Park, but you 3 canceled, allowing Ryan to go unaccompanied. Jason confirmed readily. That is correct. A family matter arose. Despite this, Whitley spoke steadily, arranging several printed photographs on the table, stating, we possess photographic proof that all 4 of you were camping in Rockwell Forest, contrary to the claim of hiking in Crestwood Park. He presented the photos retrieved from Ryan's phone to Jason. These photographs were taken on the date Ryan purportedly went hiking by himself. Jason's complexion visibly paled as he examined the compromising images. A photograph showed 4 smiling teenagers posing for the camera, with beer cans visible, and Ryan was clearly alive and among the group. Oh my God, Jason's mother whispered, her hand covering her mouth. His attorney leaned forward, maintaining a professional composure, but visibly shaken. Where did these come from? Whitley answered Ryan's phone, presenting additional evidence. A photograph of the recovered device sealed in an evidence bag. The device was found deliberately hidden under rocks close to your campsite, the very campsite where a park ranger observed 3 young men in a red Jeep Wrangler registered to Tyler Westfield's father. Whitley subsequently placed a map on the table, clearly indicating both Crestwood Park and Rockwell Forest. You directed the police to search an area 20 miles from his actual location. That's more than just a falsehood, Jason. That's intentional deception. My client isn't obligated to address these claims, the lawyer stated, but Jason was already faltering under the pressure of the evidence. It was an accident, he exclaimed, tears forming in his eyes, as he disregarded his attorney's effort to quiet him with a hand on his arm. We never intended for any of this to occur. You must believe me. During the following hour, the disturbing reality surfaced through Jason's hesitant admission. The 4 friends had brought a substantial amount of alcohol, consuming it heavily around the campfire late into the night. Ryan and Tyler had a disagreement, Jason recounted, his gaze fixed on the table. It was over something trivial concerning Tyler's girlfriend. The disagreement intensified, eventually becoming physical. Jason stated that Ethan initially attempted to intervene, but then sided with Tyler as the confrontation worsened. Ryan, finding himself at a disadvantage, tried to depart, gathering his possessions and requesting Tyler to drive him to his vehicle. Tyler declined, as he was too intoxicated to operate a car. Ryan stated he would leave on foot and contact his father for transportation. At that point, Ethan pushed him. Ryan fell and struck his head on the fire ring. Significant bleeding occurred, and he showed no signs of movement. The 3 teenagers panicked, understanding Ryan had died, and they were a considerable distance from assistance, under the influence, and illegally present on restricted forest land. According to Jason, Tyler suggested burying him, his voice barely audible. Tyler claimed it was an accident, but no one would believe them, given they had been drinking. They feared they would all go to prison. They had buried Ryan's body away from the campsite, gathered their equipment, and fled. The following morning, they drove Ryan's car to Crestwood Park and abandoned it at the trailhead, fabricating the story that he had gone hiking alone. As evening arrived, all three teenagers were apprehended and formally charged. Tyler and Ethan faced charges of manslaughter and evidence tampering, while Jason was charged with accessory after the fact and obstruction of justice. Their elaborate deception had crumbled entirely when confronted with substantial evidence and Jason's thorough confession. They nearly succeeded, Whitley observed to Lydia, as they watched the three being processed. Without your dog's remarkable skills, Ryan might have stayed lost indefinitely. 3 days following the discovery of Ryan Hollister's body, Lydia stood with Aspen at the border of the forest clearing that had transformed into a temporary memorial. Ryan's parents had been at the location earlier that day, placing flowers and pictures of their son near a large pine tree. Your dog altered everything, a soft voice said from behind her. Lydia turned to see Elizabeth Hollister, Ryan's mother, walking towards them with her husband James. Lines of grief were visible on their faces, but they maintained a dignified composure. We wanted to thank you personally, James said, his voice thick with emotion. He spoke of how Aspen found Ryan during a training exercise, and how she wouldn't leave until an investigation was initiated. Lydia responded gently, noticing a lump form in Elizabeth's throat as she knelt beside Aspen. The shepherd remained remarkably still, her typical composed attitude relaxing a little, as Elizabeth's mother softly stroked her head. The moment felt deeply meaningful, a bond existing between the woman who mourned her son and the dog who had ultimately led him back. For months of uncertainty had been agonizing, Elizabeth murmured. The recurring dreams always centered on him, isolated, adrift, and hoping to be discovered. Now, at long last, we can ensure he receives a fitting burial. Afterward, as the sunset filled the western sky with vivid oranges and pinks, Lydia brought Aspen to their preferred tranquil location, a bluff offering a view of the river valley, a place they frequently visited to find solace at the close of challenging days. The shepherd remained beside his handler, both of them observing the shifting hues in a peaceful silence. The recent events had clearly impacted both of them. Aspen had worked almost 20 hours consecutively during the initial investigation, only stopping when Lydia had insisted. Even now, after being officially released from the case, the shepherd continued to exhibit a sense of watchful readiness, as if her obligation to Ryan wasn't entirely fulfilled. Chief Bennett had contacted them that afternoon with news that the department had received numerous calls and emails commending Aspen's work. The local newspaper featured the headline, "Hero Dog Brings Justice After 4 Months of Silence," with a photo of Aspen at the crime scene, her focused expression reflecting the intensity that had cracked the case. "You knew exactly what you were doing, didn't you?" Lydia murmured, rubbing the spot behind Aspen's ears that always elicited an appreciative lean, deliberately breaking the rules to ensure everyone listened. Aspen turned to meet her handler's gaze, those intelligent eyes communicating volumes. Their bond had been tested and proven in the most challenging circumstances, reinforcing what Lydia had always believed. That true partnership went beyond conventional training and rigid protocols. Master Sergeant Calloway called, Lydia told her partner, smiling at the recollection of the conversation. He stated you've made him prouder than any medal he ever received, and that he always believed you were destined for something exceptional. The shepherd's ears rose at the reference to her first trainer, her head tilting a little, seeming to request further information. He will be visiting next month and wishes to see you, bringing some specialized training equipment he has created. At that instant, observing the final light of the day disappear over the valley, Lydia experienced deep appreciation for the intricate series of events that had united them. The Marine who transformed personal sorrow into training remarkable dogs, the challenging shepherd who required the appropriate handler, and the confidence they had fostered which enabled Aspen's unique talents to emerge when it was most crucial. What had previously appeared as stubborn disobedience was shown to be unusual insight, the capacity to understand when human regulations required alteration for a significant objective. Have you ever observed an animal perceive something that humans entirely overlooked? Animals have remarkable instincts that occasionally appear almost supernatural, enabling them to detect things outside human perception. Aspen's extraordinary skill in finding Ryan's grave within a distant forest during a standard training exercise highlights how our canine companions often experience the world in ways we struggle to understand. Consider what you would do if you were Lydia. Should you adhere to established procedures or rely on your dog's intuition? It's understandable to envision the stress she felt when Aspen disregarded training protocols, which could have resulted in embarrassment before her colleagues. That pivotal decision to trust her partner, despite all rational objections, ultimately provided closure for a grieving family and justice for a young man who might otherwise have never been found. If this story of canine heroism touched your heart, please hit that like button to help us reach more dog lovers around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary canine stories, and make sure to press the notification bell so you never miss our new uploads. Please share this video with friends and family who value the incredible skills of working dogs and the unique connection they have with their handlers. Don't miss our previous stories about canine heroes, which are currently playing, including the inspiring account of a police dog who discovered a concealed area, leading to the disruption of an international smuggling operation, and the search and rescue dog who found a lost child during a blizzard despite the failure of all human attempts. Join us tomorrow, at the same time, for another compelling story exploring the extraordinary world of working dogs and their handlers. During the national championship match, a police dog's persistent barking at a soccer ball was initially dismissed by security officials as an overreaction. However, one officer trusted his partner's instincts and uncovered something that stunned the entire stadium. What was concealed within that seemingly ordinary ball? Before we delve into today's story, please share in the comments where you're watching from. If you appreciate remarkable police dogs and stories similar to this one, please subscribe. Don't miss future content. The autumn sun cast long shadows across Lincoln Memorial Stadium as 60,000 fans poured through the gates, their excited chatter filling the crisp Chicago air. This wasn't just any soccer match. It was the national championship final, with Chicago's hometown heroes facing their bitter rivals from New York. Amidst this controlled chaos, Officer Isaac Tate straightened his uniform cap and surveyed the expanding crowd, his practiced eyes noticing everything. Beside him, Dash, a sleek German shepherd with attentive ears and intelligent eyes, kept a precise heel position despite the intense sensory overload of the stadium. Another sweep of the south entrance, then we'll check the locker rooms again, Isaac stated into his radio, receiving a crackled confirmation from dispatch. He looked down at Dash with a smile. "Ready to work, partner?" Officer Tate called from behind them. Isaac turned to see Chief Williams approaching, his silver-streaked hair and commanding presence eliciting respectful nods from security personnel nearby. "Everything secure so far?" Isaac responded, straightening slightly. "Dash and I have completed 3 perimeter sweeps and verified all access points. We are proceeding to the field level now for a final inspection before kickoff." Williams acknowledged, his gaze turning to Dash. "Still our department's invaluable asset, I see." The chief's faith was well-founded. Last month, Dash identified explosives in an abandoned warehouse when the department's other canines had not, resulting in the apprehension of a domestic terror cell before they could carry out their plans. As Williams left, Isaac and Dash proceeded toward the player tunnel, moving with practiced efficiency through the pre-game preparations. The VIP boxes would be filling now, and the teams would soon emerge for warm-ups. As Isaac led Dash through the stadium corridors, his mind recalled their first meeting 4 years ago at the Chicago Police Department's specialized K-9 training facility. He'd been a patrol officer then, eager but uncertain about transferring to the K-9 unit after his previous partner had retired. That day, the training sergeant presented 5 German shepherds, all remarkable animals boasting impressive histories. However, upon Dash's entry into the room, a distinct difference was apparent. Whereas the other dogs vocalized or investigated, Dash remained seated, his amber eyes observing each handler with an apparent intelligence bordering on human. "This one's special," the sergeant remarked, his voice rough but laced with respect. Having completed his training at the top of his class in detection work, he has specific preferences regarding his handlers. He has already declined 3 officers. Isaac recalled kneeling to meet Dash at eye level, the room becoming quiet as they studied each other. "Hey there," he said softly. "Do you think we could work together?" To everyone's astonishment, Dash stood, walked directly to Isaac, and sat beside him, leaning against his leg. The selection had been made not by the department but by Dash himself. Just 6 months following certification, Dash and his team encountered their first significant case. While responding to a standard call concerning unusual behavior at a storage facility, Dash bypassed the apparent storage units and instead focused on a parked delivery van that appeared ordinary. His continued warnings resulted in the uncovering of a large fentanyl shipment concealed within hidden spaces, a quantity capable of triggering hundreds of overdoses. The case resulted in commendations for them, but more significantly, it solidified Isaac's complete faith in Dash's intuition. Repeatedly, when Dash signaled a problem, he proved accurate. Even when conventional reasoning suggested a different outcome, the initial players exited the tunnel to scattered applause from those arriving early, their cleats making a rhythmic clicking sound against the concrete before reaching the gentler turf. Following closely were the equipment managers, maneuvering carts filled with training gear, medical supplies, and the official match balls. Dash, having just completed a final inspection of the bench areas, abruptly stiffened. His demeanor transformed from relaxed professionalism to sharp alertness in a fleeting moment, a change so delicate that only Isaac would have perceived it. "What is it, boy?" Isaac murmured, observing the shift. Dash moved 2 measured steps toward the cart, his nose actively working, examining something undetectable to the average person. Isaac followed, appearing relaxed but carefully observing his colleague. The shepherd's ears were now standing straight up, his posture changing from interested to worried. "Everything okay, officer?" inquired one of the stadium security supervisors, a large man named Reeves, who liaised with the police for significant events. "Just checking something," Isaac replied, observing the equipment manager begin distributing balls for the warm-up. As the man opened the ball bag, Dash's behavior became more pronounced. His back stiffened, and his breathing pattern shifted. With practice balls laid out on the field, Dash began tracking one particular ball with unusual focus. His typically disciplined demeanor softened, revealing more insistent body language, a behavioral signal as if trying to communicate something important to Isaac. "It's likely just the scent of the new balls," Reeves offered, gesturing dismissively. "These championship balls are fresh from the factory, a special design for the final. Dogs probably detect the adhesive or something similar." Isaac nodded politely, but he sensed something was amiss. The balls may be new, but Dash had encountered soccer equipment countless times during stadium patrols. He had never exhibited any interest previously. Isaac instructed Dash and heel, deciding to watch for a little longer before alerting anyone. The shepherd obeyed, though his focus remained on the ball, now being moved between players practicing. "Officer Tate, your radio crackled. Status report?" Isaac responded, all clear on field level, although a growing concern troubled his thoughts. Was he overlooking something? When Dash whimpered quietly, a sound he seldom made during work, Isaac chose to report the incident. Supervisor Reeves observed that my K9 was displaying unusual interest in one of the game balls. I asked if I could examine it. Reeves frowned, glancing at his watch. "We're 30 minutes from kickoff, Tate. The commissioner and network executives are already concerned about the schedule." He implied the seriousness of the situation. False alarms at high-profile events were career-damaging mistakes. It was likely nothing, Isaac admitted, although the statement felt incorrect the instant he spoke it. "We will monitor the situation." The stadium exploded with sound as both teams ran out of the tunnel for the official commencement of the match. The referee went to the ball bag, choosing the game ball, the same one that had activated Dash's alert during warm-ups. As soon as the ball was positioned at center field, Dash's body stiffened again. His ears rose, and a quiet whine began in his throat. "Easy, boy," Isaac murmured, maintaining a hand on Dash's harness while reaching for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Tate. My K9 is still alerting to the game ball, requesting an additional K9 unit to confirm." "Tate, this is Supervisor Reeves. Negative on that request. We cannot interrupt a national championship match without concrete evidence." Isaac felt frustration growing as he observed the ball being passed among players on the field. Dash's focus remained unwavering, his head moving deliberately to follow the questionable ball, his posture becoming more insistent. "With all due respect, sir, Dash has never been mistaken," Isaac insisted. "And I've been responsible for security at the stadium for 15 years, Reeves interjected. "Unless that ball detonates or begins to release a substance, we are proceeding with the match." Isaac activated his radio to a different frequency. "Officer Aaron Vargas, this is Tate. Do you read?" A short delay passed, then Aaron's voice responded. "Copy, Tate. Could you please make your way to section 114 where I am located? I need a second opinion on something." As play continued on the field, Isaac noticed something odd. A maintenance worker in stadium uniform was exhibiting unusual attentiveness to the game, not observing the players like a fan would, but focusing intently on the ball itself. The man's gaze followed the same trajectory as Dash's, tracking the suspicious ball with unnatural focus. Officer Aaron Vargas arrived, her canine partner Rex, a Belgian Malinois, recovering well. "What have we got?" she asked quietly. "Dash has been alerting to that game ball since warm-ups," Isaac explained, pointing discreetly. "The one with the small scuff on the logo panel and that maintenance guy by the tunnel is paying way too much attention to it." Aaron studied the situation briefly. "Reeves shot you down?" she asked. "Completely," Isaac confirmed. Concerned about potentially impacting the game's flow, they continued their discussion when a forceful tackle brought down a New York player, prompting the referee to signal a free kick. The unusual ball paused briefly, and Dash's alert demeanor heightened. "Rex, check," Aaron instructed softly. The Belgian Malinois responded instantly, becoming rigid and fixating on the same ball that had drawn Dash's focus. "That's confirmation," Aaron stated, lowering her voice. Two dogs, each with distinct training histories, simultaneously alerted to the identical target. This was not a random occurrence. Isaac acknowledged this, experiencing a blend of reassurance and increasing worry. The maintenance worker touched his earpiece. A communication was being relayed to him. They observed him receive this message, then he subtly moved nearer to the location of the ball boys. "He's anticipating something," Isaac stated. "But what's concealed within that ball?" Cleared security as expected. Officer Tate keyed his radio, contacting Captain Reynolds directly, circumventing Reeves. "Captain, this is Officer Tate. We have confirmed AK-9 alert on the game ball currently in play. Request permission to implement Protocol 17. Protocol 17 was departmental code for a covert evidence seizure, a procedure developed for situations requiring evidence collection without public awareness." The captain responded immediately and clearly. The scoreboard displayed a tense 1-1 tie as halftime drew near. The suspicious maintenance worker had moved 3 times during the first half, each time bringing him nearer the officials' area where the game ball would be secured during the break. "For minutes until halftime," Isaac said, checking his watch. "We need to secure that ball before anyone can make a switch." Aaron mentioned that the head referee consistently brings the game ball to the officials' room during halftime. The room has 2 entrances, the main corridor and the service hallway. "Rex will accompany you through the main entrance, while Dash and I will monitor the service hallway." As they completed their plan, the referee signaled the halftime whistle. The audience's noise changed as spectators went to concessions and restrooms. On the field, the referee gathered the game ball, securing it beneath his arm as both teams ran towards the tunnels. Isaac and Dash proceeded calmly through the service corridor, utilizing their credentials to enter restricted areas. They established themselves in a recess, providing a clear view of the officials' room's back entrance, Dash remaining perfectly still, even with his apparent wish to follow the ball's scent. The target was in motion. A maintenance worker was proceeding towards the service corridors, carrying a duffel bag, Aaron's voice reported in his earpiece. Within less than a minute, the maintenance worker appeared, walking with deliberate steps down the service hallway. The man's expression was calm, but Isaac observed slight indicators of tension, including slightly rapid breathing, automatic scanning of the environment, and a firm hold on the duffel bag. The worker halted at the corner, waited for a stadium employee to move out of sight, and then headed toward the official's room. Rather than going in, he stood close by, feigning inspection of an electrical panel while visibly observing the door. Within the officials' room, the referee team was examining first-half occurrences on a tablet. The game ball remained on a small table, briefly overlooked as the officials discussed a disputed offside call. Captain Reynolds spoke softly into his radio. Request distraction protocol at the officials' room. Need 30 seconds. Copy that, Tate. Tate responded. Distraction incoming. Within less than a minute, a security officer approached the officials' room from the main corridor, knocking urgently. Gentlemen, we need an immediate clarification for the VR team. There's a technical issue with the goal review. As the officials followed the security officer toward the main VAR station, Isaac took advantage of the diversion. While Dash monitored his progress, he entered the now vacant room, swiftly found the game ball, and conducted a quick inspection. Visually, the ball appeared standard. However, when Isaac applied slight pressure to certain areas, he observed an anomaly. The ball's surface responded differently compared to typical equipment. As he ran his fingers across the seams, he discovered a nearly imperceptible alteration, a section that had been skillfully resealed. Aaron, he murmured into his radio. I possessed the ball. There was clearly something contained within. It had been altered by professionals. Acting swiftly, Isaac made a small cut along an existing seam. Looking inside, he observed what seemed to be a tightly wrapped package fastened to the inner bladder. We have contraband, he confirmed. He exchanged the suspicious ball with an identical one from team equipment stock and exited the room just before the officials returned. Within the security command post, Technical Officer Zhang examined the ball. The image displayed on the screen prompted silence among those present. The X-ray showed a complex alteration to the ball's internal design, a refined cavity situated between the synthetic leather exterior and the internal bladder. High-grade synthetic opioids were indicated by the density pattern, Zhang verified, adjusting the image to highlight specific regions. The skill of the construction is truly impressive. Observe how they've redistributed the weight to maintain proper flight characteristics. The ball would bounce, spin, and travel identically to an unmodified one. He pointed to several specific features on the screen. Note these reinforcement structures. Carbon fiber elements were included to maintain ball integrity during play, and this secondary bladder ensures proper inflation pressure despite the reduced air volume. This was not some rushed amateur job. This is a highly sophisticated undertaking, Aaron observed, examining the image with increasing worry. They would require specialized equipment, Zhang clarified. This included industrial-grade heat welding tools, precision cutting implements, and likely custom molds to maintain the spherical shape's integrity. We are discussing an operation demanding substantial resources and technical skills, he continued. And the drugs themselves? Captain Reynolds asked. Zhang explained that the synthetic opioids were in a crystalline form, specially processed to eliminate scent markers typically identified by canines. This is why standard security protocols failed to detect them. He estimated a street value of at least $3 million for this quantity, including impurities. Not just any game ball, Captain Reynolds observed, his face serious. The one certain to be broadcast on national television for 2 hours, handled exclusively by officials and players, and considered entirely beyond reproach, the ideal Trojan horse. As the second half approached, Isaac felt the familiar tension of a major operation developing. The maintenance worker is just one piece, he stated. There has to be a larger network. The coordinated takedown began with practiced precision. Plainclothes officers moved simultaneously throughout the stadium, closing in on identified suspects with minimal disruption. Most fans remained focused on the match, completely unaware of the operation unfolding around them. As a Chicago striker nearly scored again, Isaac and Dash moved toward the maintenance worker, using the enthusiastic crowd for concealment. Marcus Elroy, Isaac stated softly, positioning himself next to the man. Chicago PD, please place your hands where I can see them. Elroy paused briefly, his gaze flickering between Isaac and Dash as he assessed the situation. I don't know what you're talking about, Elroy mumbled, subtly adjusting his position toward the exit. I work here. We have already obtained both packages, Isaac responded calmly. The operation is complete. The reference to both packages produced a noticeable reaction on Elroy's face. They had located not only the ball but also a secondary strategy. The situation hung precariously for a brief moment. Then Elroy decided, pushing a nearby food cart into Isaac's path and fleeing toward the service tunnel. Isaac reported into his radio, already in pursuit, with Dash leading the way, as a suspect fled east through the service tunnel. The service tunnels beneath the stadium formed a confusing labyrinth of corridors, with a canine in pursuit. While Elroy might know the layout, he couldn't outpace a trained police dog. Dash moved with fluid speed, turning corners with precision and driving forward with single-minded focus. "I've got the exit covered," Aaron's voice came through Isaac's earpiece. "That route is blocked." Elroy forced his way through a pair of double doors and into a spacious equipment room, toppling shelving units in an attempt to delay his pursuers. The loud noise of the falling metal and plastic made for a confusing and difficult path, yet Dash's training allowed him to overcome it. The shepherd jumped over a collapsing cabinet, avoided a suspended electrical conduit, and continued the chase with unwavering focus. Isaac kept pace, his extensive physical training enabling him to move through the chaos while maintaining visual contact with his partner. The suspect arrived at a junction of corridors, pausing briefly, which allowed Dash to shorten the distance to just a few yards. Recognizing the dog was closing in, Elroy's desperation became apparent. He seized a rolling cart and pushed it straight into Dash's path. The shepherd easily avoided the obstacle, maintaining his speed with powerful, efficient strides. "Chicago PD, stop or I'll release the dog," Isaac announced, delivering the necessary caution. Elroy looked over his shoulder, his face etched with panic as he understood he couldn't escape the chase. As the suspect seized a metal pipe from a maintenance rack and turned to strike, Isaac gave a clear instruction. "Dash, stop." The German shepherd moved swiftly, resembling a furry projectile, focusing on Elroy's arm with the accuracy developed through extensive training. His jaws secured the suspect's wrist with a measured grip, sufficient to restrain without inflicting significant harm. The pipe fell to the floor as Elroy exclaimed in surprise and discomfort, the metallic sound reverberating through the service corridor. "Police on the ground," Isaac instructed, drawing his weapon as he advanced. Dash held firm, his years of preparation clear in his controlled composure. With his unoccupied hand, Elroy retrieved an item from his pocket. Isaac grew apprehensive, but the individual produced a compact remote device instead of a weapon. "Call off your dog, or I'm activating the third package," Elroy warned, his finger positioned over a button. "You believe you've located everything? There's enough fentanyl in the third one to endanger half the VIP section if it's released." "Dash, release," Isaac ordered. The shepherd followed the instruction, retreating 2 steps while staying between Elroy and the exit. Elroy's thumb moved towards the button. In that brief moment, Isaac needed to make a vital decision: shoot Elroy and risk him activating the device as he fell, or rely on Dash's training for a more accurate response. "Dash, take." The command was hardly spoken before the shepherd surged forward with impressive speed, focusing on Elroy's wrist with exact accuracy. The German shepherd's jaws closed around the suspect's hand, applying enough pressure to force his fingers open without causing fractures. The device fell to the floor. Isaac moved in immediately, securing Elroy while kicking the remote device to a safe distance. "Suspect in custody," he reported via radio. "Be advised, the suspect claims a third package is located somewhere in the VIP section, potentially rigged for dispersal." With the arrival of additional officers to apprehend Elroy, it was revealed that his warning regarding a third package was a fabrication, a last-ditch effort to gain advantage during his arrest. The security command center was now filled with activity as the complete nature of the operation came to light. Suspects, identified via Elroy's phone records, had been discreetly arrested across the stadium. The soccer match displayed on the monitors progressed, with Chicago holding a lead of 3-1 and 15 minutes left on the clock. Captain Reynolds briefed the assembled team leaders, noting that 6 suspects were in custody. 2 packages containing roughly 5 kilograms of synthetic opioids had been secured, with a street value estimated at just over $4 million. Chief Williams considered the information, then issued his directive. The match should continue. Maintain a heightened security presence, but ensure it remains unobtrusive. Work with stadium staff to put crowd management measures in place for standard post-game departures. As Isaac returned to his post with Dash, the stadium erupted in cheers. Chicago had scored again, securing their championship victory. The celebration provided ideal cover for the final phase of the operation as remaining suspects were identified and apprehended throughout the venue. The following morning, Isaac arrived at the precinct to find Chief Williams waiting in the briefing room with Captain Reynolds and several officials he didn't recognize. Dash padded beside him, sensing the significance of the meeting in his handler's body language. Officer Tate, Williams greeted him with unusual formality. These gentlemen are from the DEA and Homeland Security. They'd like to hear about yesterday's operation directly from you. The subsequent hour was dedicated to detailing the events, beginning with Dash's first warning and culminating in the synchronized operation. The federal agents listened carefully, sometimes asking about particular aspects of the smuggling technique. The level of technical skill is what worries us the most, explained Agent Donovan from the DEA. The ball had been expertly altered with a hidden seam that would have been practically impossible to detect using routine security procedures. The internal bladder underwent redesign to accommodate the package while preserving proper inflation pressure and bounce characteristics. Information received from the suspects has already proven valuable, Captain Reynolds announced. Elroy activated his contacts upon learning about the additional charges. We are coordinating with departments in 3 states for simultaneous raids later today. Following the briefing, a press conference was held in front of headquarters. The commissioner described the operation in measured language, highlighting public safety and avoiding specifics that could hinder current inquiries. The commissioner then stated, "I'd now like to introduce Officer Isaac Tate and his canine partner, Dash, the team responsible for the initial detection that enabled this operation." A reporter from the Tribune posed the key question. "Officer Tate, we've been informed that your canine alerted to something that security screening overlooked. What prompted you to follow his indication despite supervisor's initial dismissal?" Isaac hesitated, formulating his response thoughtfully. In the 4 years together, Dash has never been incorrect when he alerts to something, not once. Our partnership functions on mutual trust. When he indicates something is amiss, I have faith in him, even when I cannot perceive the issue myself. That afternoon, as the workday concluded, Supervisor Reeves came to Isaac's desk. "Officer Tate," Reeves began, appearing uneasy, "I owe you an apology. Initially, I disregarded your report regarding Dash's alert, considering it an excessive response. Had I heeded you at first, we might have resolved the matter more quickly." In the parking lot, away from onlookers, Isaac permitted himself a brief feeling of justified pride. He knelt beside his partner, gently stroking the fur around Dash's neck and offering the sincere fondness that existed apart from their professional bond. "You were incredible yesterday," he told Dash softly. "Truly incredible. I understand you aren't concerned with press conferences or stylish uniforms. You were simply performing your duty, correct?" Dash's tail moved slightly, his brown eyes locking with Isaac's, reflecting the strong connection that had defined their partnership from the start. Leaving the precinct, Isaac considered how what began as a standard security detail had evolved into a pivotal operation for them both. If successful, the smuggling attempt would have created a route for illicit narcotics to reach communities in several states. The resulting harm to people would have been devastating, all averted thanks to a single determined dog's persistent barking at a soccer ball. Have you ever observed an animal detecting something that humans didn't notice? A remarkable instance occurred during a championship soccer game when a police dog named Dash persistently barked at a game ball that appeared normal. Officer Isaac Tate, Dash's handler, was presented with a challenging decision. Should he disregard his partner's reaction as a misjudgment or rely on the instincts that had proven reliable throughout their 4 years together? What action would you have taken if you were Officer Tate? How do you find the strength to uphold your beliefs when those nearby question them? Or, for example, the persistent barking of your canine companion? We are intrigued by the unique relationship between working dogs and their handlers. Have you ever seen this remarkable connection between a working dog and their handler? Or have you experienced a comparable bond with your own pet? Many of us have accounts of animals detecting danger before humans could recognize it. From dogs alerting to health emergencies to pets behaving strangely before natural disasters, what experiences have you had with animals detecting things beyond human senses? Share your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this incredible story of Dash's remarkable detection abilities, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly releases featuring the extraordinary achievements of police canines around the world. Please share this video with friends who value the exceptional abilities of working dogs and the committed officers who work alongside them. View our past stories about canine heroes, which are currently showing, including the inspiring story of a bloodhound that located a lost child across many miles of wilderness and the bomb detection dog who secured a hospital during a critical threat. Each canine possesses a distinctive story of bravery, intelligence, and steadfast loyalty.